Huh. It says something went wrong. Am I on? I guess I'll check on my phone. It says something went wrong. That's so weird. Nothing surprises me with YouTube. Nothing. Dare I keep going with the monkey with the hammer over here telling me that something went wrong? Yeah, I figured my thumbnail was going to trigger some of that. Let's see. These are some crazy times. I don't have to tell you guys that. If you're true crime aficionados, you already know. None of this is new. It's just new actors, right? Let's see what happens when I try to go to my live. Will it take me there? Okay, I'm watching my live, except that right now I'm just watching a commercial because I still haven't gotten that thing. Okay, it says look at me. Let's do it. Let's do the weird loop, okay? Oh my goodness. This is too funny. Oh my goodness. This is too funny. Oh my goodness. This is too funny. Oh my goodness. I've always wanted to do that, so there, now I have. I don't know, though, how to get this little monkey off my back. Got the purple monkey here. I wonder if it'll go away. It's just distracting is all. But I guess I can just try to figure out how to ignore it. Yeah, it's not showing up on my feed, of course. I have 3 people in the house. Oh, see, and I can't see the chat because the stupid monkey is over it. Like I said, I got the monkey on my back, and I don't really want to mess with anything. So just know that I unfortunately can't see your chat. That kind of bites. But like I said, it's par for the course. I honestly don't think it's just a glitch because I've never had this glitch. And I'm going to ask around to my content creator colleagues. I don't know that anybody's ever had this glitch, but I am. Here, let me take a photograph of it and then show it to you guys. Oh my goodness, technology. Technology. Okay, so this is what my screen looks like instead of seeing the chat over here where I don't know if you can see with the glare, you can kind of see the purple monkey. That's usually where the chat is rolling. And instead, it's got the funny monkey with the hammer that says something went wrong. But I'm just going to keep going because if there's one thing that you learn with doing your YouTube, it's keep moving forward, right? I mean, you got to thicken your skin, toughen your sensitivity, and not worry so much. You know, if it's going to be imperfect. If you're looking for perfection, definitely don't start a YouTube channel. Even if you're a millionaire, like freaking Ben Meiselas, I'm sorry, not sorry for calling him out. You know, I've told you guys some of these political channels that I've been watching the last few months, and the Midas Touch is one of them. However, I've been watching it less and less because they do what all the cheap shots do, which is the bait and switch. Like, that's one thing I try to not do. When I first started my channel, I did like everybody else. I don't want to say I did the bait and switch, but I would try to sensationalize the headlines to get people to choose my video over others if they were unfamiliar with my channel. These days, even though my viewership is low, I have a viewership and I'm going for quality, not quantity. So I try really hard not to sensationalize my thumbnails at all, not even a little bit. So like today, I can't even remember what I titled it. I usually retitle it after the live when I'm reviewing it anyway. So it doesn't matter that much what it's titled right now. Unless it says like bombshell, the world's exploding or something stupid like that, which I feel like a lot of times some of these channels do that. So I try really hard to stay focused and stay in my lane and not worry so much about what the other channels are doing. However, channels like that have a humongous reach and they're not really going anywhere, in my opinion. They kind of have people on like the, what do you call that thing? Like the rat wheel. Just, they come on hoping to chase that carrot, chase that piece of cheese, and they're just not getting anywhere. So I feel like it's really imperative right now, like never before, that we actually get somewhere with the situation, the political situation. And you know how I've said all along, since I've kind of turned into a political channel, that I feel like politics are true crime right now. Absolutely. I kind of feel like this whole thing with the cabinet and the leadership of our unit of our country, of our USA, it's sort of like an Ocean's 11. Like, where's Brad Pitt? Come on. If we're going to have the Ocean's 11, at least give us Brad Pitt. Oh my goodness. Or somebody a little bit hotter than Vance, because he's not hot at all. Not at all. And we know that Mr. T likes to think that he's hot. So I have a lot of stuff I want to discuss. And again, just to reiterate, I can't see your chat at all. Kind of bites. But I'm really happy to see that I have 1 like and 4 viewers. Please hit that like button if you don't mind. It helps the feed get out to more people. And the bigger the reach, less is more, but you do want to be heard. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't put a YouTube channel together, right? Make sure that you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider doing it. It's amazing how many people just won't subscribe because, I don't know, they think they'll watch your channel all the time, but they won't subscribe. I don't get it, but it's okay. Maybe their buttons are broken or something, or they don't have thumbs. Who knows? Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. Turn on your notification bell to ring. So things I want to cover today, because I kind of jump all over the map, I like to tell you guys where I'm going to be jumping to. No more town halls, P-tapes, Tesla crashing, internalized transphobia, and Gene Hackman, the DNA under Maddie Mogan's fingernails, the Kansas City 3-2 arrest yesterday. You've probably already heard about that. And what else? I was playing with some words yesterday. Oh, so did I title this Donnie is a commie? Seriously, the Republican Party has gone that way, in my opinion. You cannot support Russia and North Korea without being red. And not red in the sense of Republican red, but red in that other MacArthur era sense. It's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. I just don't even understand. The infrastructure walls of our society are getting destroyed psychologically as well as within the government setup and what Doge is doing. And Doge is just crazy. So, yeah, I thought that there were caps on campaign contributions, but I guess not. I don't know. But what I really want to say, and I'm sorry, I've got like a frog in my throat, is that we cannot afford the luxury of sticking our heads in the sand. I don't feel like I can afford the luxury of sticking my head in the sand. I will admit that there's a certain amount of despair with all that's going on. And at the same time, I'm thrilled that it's being put into the limelight. So there's no denying what's going on. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's happening. It's real. What was that 100-minute State of the Union address OMG, like that was not a State of a Union address. I don't even know if Mr. T has ever watched a State of a Union address to know what they're supposed to be like. But that wasn't it, in my opinion. I'm going to choke on my coffee now. One sec. I love my coffee. So there is a lot going on with some wordplay. There's a lot going on with election tampering. So the election tampering is nothing new, you guys. It actually allegedly started here in Ohio in the early 2000s. I think the 2004 election. So it was like a test pilot program. And that's ironic because there was a certain individual that was involved who actually was a pilot who was being deposed about the election tampering, and he helped allegedly the Republican Party win. And I have his name, so you know who I'm talking about. Let me see if I can find it because it might not be in my brain. It is Michael Connell, 2008. He was the IT guru who figured out how to cheat in elections. He wouldn't take the fall for the Republican Party, and so they sabotaged his airplane. And he was threatened many times. He knew that he piloted his own private plane. So he knew that it had been sabotaged a couple of times, and he was able to resolve it and not have any incident. And then in 2008, right before Christmas, he was flying back from Washington, D.C. And when he tried to land near Akron, he crashed into somebody's house. Allegedly, there was sabotage and tampering with the engine and the parts specifically that are used when you land. I mean, I know nothing about piloting an airplane, so I'm going to have to speak in vague terms. Anyway, to reiterate, his name is Michael Connell. This was in 2008. I think it was December 22nd of 2008. But what blew my mind is that I actually know personally one of the lawyers who deposed him right before this happened. And the lawyer that I know, his name is Bob Fritakis. It's a tough name to say because it's like the letters are in an odd order. Bob Fritakis is an amazing civil rights activist attorney in Columbus. He teaches at the community college. He runs the Columbus Free Press. He's got a radio station in his garage. He's like a Renaissance man, and he's incredible. And I actually didn't know, even though I know him personally, I haven't talked to him in a few years, and I had no idea about this whole election thing. I would love to talk with him about it, because that was the one thing that people have been staunch deniers of across the boards, is that there's no way to tamper with an election. In fact, that was what Jessica Denson was trying to discuss on the Midas Touch when they said, no, you're not going to discuss that on our channel. And she was like, well, I have to discuss it, so I guess I'm not going to be on your channel anymore. And she started her own channel. So election tampering is absolutely criminal. It's actually terrorism. It's considered a terrorist attack. So if you get prosecuted for election tampering, you're probably going to be in prison for the rest of your life. And I believe that there was a ton of election tampering. There was also, I mean, to different degrees, like you can change the way somebody voted. Apparently, this is what Michael Connell was working on. You have to like shut down the system, and then when you reboot it, you can change. It can change. Remember in the 2016 election at about 1:45 in the morning, I think, East Coast time, when they were tallying up the votes. And I mean, I'm not a Clinton fan. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Hillary Clinton fan at all. I'm a Bernie Sanders fan. and she stole that Democratic ticket from him. But she was ahead when the system shut down, and then when it came back to life, she was not ahead. And we all know the rest is history. It's just unbelievable. It's seriously unbelievable. But let's, I don't want to just continue only talking about those crimes. Those are some serious crimes, but it's kind of hard to discuss, especially for me, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician. I actually did run for local politics, and it taught me a lot. And when I ran for local politics, I had already thought that elections were rigged, especially after what happened with Gore and Bush in what was that? Was that 2009? I get so confused, and I don't like to be incorrect. Let me see what the Gore election, Gore Bush, and the dangling Chads, I'll never forget. Okay, it was 2000. I'm really glad I looked it up. I was an entire decade off. Oh my goodness. So yeah, November 7th, 2000. And it was a tie. I mean, nobody had enough votes to win the Electoral College until they finished tallying Florida votes. And Jeb Bush, one of the candidates' brothers, just happened to be the governor of that state. So that was, I want to say, tacky. Like, that's an understatement for sure. Disgusting. Anyway, I literally quit voting, and I didn't vote for 10 years until I ran for a local office. I ran for township trustee here in Ohio. So you've got the state divided up into counties like any other state, but we also have townships. So the trustees do a lot, and it's like it's something that most people aren't aware of. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to try that, because you're kind of behind the scenes. You're not like out in the forefront like most, like city council or something like that. Like, that's totally not my thing. Anyway, I'm glad I didn't get it, because it quickly became something in the forefront, center stage, and that's not my interest. Because then you have a lot of pressure, political pressure from different parties, usually the parties with the money. The parties with the money are the ones that you're going to get pressurized by. And that's not democratic, in my opinion. It's capitalist, and I am a capitalist. I'll admit that. I grew up in America. I see a lot of benefit with capitalism. I definitely see a downside with capitalism too, but it is the way to go as far as like communism versus capitalism. Give me an effing break. Russia, North Korea, China. No, thank you. So where I left off, I think I left off with the thing about the remote controlling the people with literally remote controlling the people with the wires implanted in the brain. So we've all heard about this idea, the neuroscience and the neurochip and the interfacing of humanity in computers, and Neuralink that Elon Musk owns and has very likely already implemented within his own self. And this is just an idea. I'm not saying that I think that this happened, but that type of remote control with putting Neuralinks into people's brains, you could get the results of something like what happened with Luigi Mangione, if I'm saying his name correct, or Matt Leibelsberger, if I'm saying his name correct. So especially with Matt Leibelsberger, I mean, I don't know with either one of them, but it certainly seems like that could be potentially a thing. Oh, let's see. So you guys probably saw Adrian Brody. I didn't watch the Oscars. I got too much on my plate to be dealing with that crap. But I did see the one scene where he threw his gum at his girlfriend, and I would imagine that everybody has seen that. So Adrian Brody, who's a great actor, he was going up to the stage to do his acceptance speech, and he had gum in his mouth, and his girlfriend was chasing him, and he was like halfway up the stairs, and he turned around and he threw his gum at her, and I think he missed, and I think she went and found it, but I don't know how many people realize that his girlfriend, is her name Georgina Chapman? I think it's her name. But what I do know is that she's Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife. She has a couple of children with Harvey Weinstein. He's got 5 children. I think he has 3 children with his first wife and then 2 children with her. Oh, man. And is it so frightening to think about people like Harvey Weinstein getting pardoned? I just can't even go there. My brain can only handle so much, and it is crashing in on me. It's imploding. So the election being tampered with is just beyond acceptable, way beyond acceptable. That, like I said, is an act of terrorism, and it is also fascist. It's absolutely fascist. You just can't do that in a free democracy, not at all. So again, I'm going to remind anybody who just got here, I can't see the freaking comments because there's a purple monkey with a hammer that says something went wrong. And I'm just, rather than restart my live, I'm just going to try to keep going. I apologize for that. You know how much I love your comments, which is pretty much why I come on live. So Elon's gaslighting, his wondering if these people even exist when he sends out his email to all the government employees saying, tell me 5 things you did last week or you're fired. And then he's like, well, maybe they're lazy. Maybe they're not really working. Maybe they don't even exist. What kind of magical thinking is that? It's unreal. So he's admittedly on substances, right? He's admitted that for a long time. I tried to print out an article about it, and it looks like it was running out of ink. Let me see if I can maybe read a little bit of it. I'm going to try. This is a year old. It's CNN. Elon Musk said he is almost always sober during his late night, or in some cases, very early morning posting sessions on his social media platform. The billionaire Tesla CEO's comment was made in an interview with journalist Don Lemon. I'm a big Don Lemon fan. During which Musk discussed his use of the medication ketamine. Interesting, huh? This is hard to read. Like I said, it was running out of ink, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. Musk, who is known for his often erratic behavior, has faced scrutiny following recent reports about his alleged drug use and the potential impact on his companies. Imagine our country, right? These are times when I have sort of a negative chemical state in my brain, like depression, I guess, or depression that is not linked to any negative news. And ketamine is helpful for getting one out of the negative frame of mind. Musk told Lemon, Musk added that he has a prescription for the drug from, quote, an actual real doctor, unquote. Well, yeah, I mean, you can doctor shop and get doctors to write you whatever prescription you want, especially when you're a billionaire, in my opinion. And let's see. What is that word? And uses a small amount once every other week or something like that. That's a weird thing to say, or something like that. So that's probably not accurate. It's probably a lot more. Usually anytime people report their rug use, they're reporting under half of what's real. Minimum. And that's when people are trying to like come clean and get help, actually. So if they're not trying to come clean, they're not trying to get help, they're going to lie even more. Like say, I never use rugs. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that? I don't know where that came from. there was something, I think it was a criminal around the area where I live, and he had rugs in his pocket, and he said, "Them's aren't even my pants." He didn't know whose pants he had on. Okay, let's keep going. When Musk said he doesn't drink and doesn't know how to smoke pot, what a weird thing to say. He didn't specify whether he was talking about ketamine or another substance when he said he is almost always sober while posting late at night. Sorry for the horrible print job here. I just didn't want to waste time trying to reprint, and I didn't even think I'd read it, but I'm kind of glad that I am. I hope you are too. And thanks for being here, people. Let's see what else I can read. I could try to pull it up on my phone, but that would take more time. Musk has previously posted on X about his prescription use of ketamine, a drug used primarily in hospitals as an anesthetic, which is increasingly being explored as a potential treatment for depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. Musk's comments offer greater insight into the use of the rug by one of the world's wealthiest and most powerful people. So to me, that just says you can't trust this whole thing, this whole movement, if it's like compelled by him. Musk denied that he overuses the medication, saying if you use too much ketamine, you can't really get work done. Yeah, actually, if you use too much, you can pass away pretty quickly, I guess. Isn't that what happened to Matthew Perry? Isn't it used to euthanize animals? I have a lot of work. I'm typically putting in 16-hour days, so I don't really have a situation where I can be not mentally acute for an extended period of time. That's a weird way to use that word acute. I mean, you use that word a lot with mental illness, not with being on top of your game. But okay, let's see. Where was I? Musk said he believes his depression is genetic and added that he doesn't believe his ketamine use will impact his companies or other government contracts. Well, that's denial. That's part of addiction, right? Part of substance abuse. From a standpoint of Wall Street, what matters is execution, he said. Are you building value for investors? Tesla is worth about as much as the rest of the car industry combined, except not anymore. It's faltering like nobody can even comprehend. So from an investor standpoint, there is something I'm taking. I should keep taking it. So from an investor standpoint, if there's something I'm taking, I should keep taking it. What a weird thing to say. That's like saying, so if I'm shooting up H and I'm successful, I better keep shooting up H. And I think that was an argument that RFK Jr. used for getting better grades in college, right? OMG. The wide-ranging 90-minute interview between Musk and Lemon, which kicked off a feud between the two men and resulted in the end of the planned deal for X to pay Lemon to post his new streaming show on the platform, covered far more than Musk's ketamine use, including Musk's criticism of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and demand for Tesla's Cybertruck. Because, yeah, the Cybertruck is really dangerous, but it's not just the Cybertruck. It's all Teslas, I believe, that when they're on fire, the doors are locked. And there's like some panic button where you can unlock them, but apparently it's hard to get to the panic button. So even first responders have trouble rescuing people out of burning Teslas. So yeah, I would never even ride in one. Plus they're ugly. Not just the Cybertrucks, all of them are ugly as far as I'm concerned. Musk also discussed the state of the core advertising business on X, which has suffered since the billionaire acquired the company, formerly known as Twitter, because of a rise in hateful and controversial content on the platform. Musk previously said advertisers who left X over concerns about anti-Semitic content should go F yourself, and accused them of unaliving the company. What a monster. In the interview with Lemon, Musk said that almost all of the company's advertisers have returned. I think that's all I'll read of that faded print job. And I have some other stuff I printed that I wanted to read to you guys about Gene Hackman's estate. So should we just hop right into that? Thanks so much for being here, you guys. I'm so sorry I can't see your comments. I'm curious if somebody wants to email me and let me know if you guys can see the comments. The email address, in case you don't know it, it's in the description of my channel. It's JusticeAtooZ@gmail.com. So if you want to email me and let me know if you could see the chat, and then I'll find out tomorrow if I can see the chat on the replay. So let me take a drink of coffee and then maybe just jump tracks over to Gene Hackman. Because you know how I am. I love just jumping all over the place. Oh, I didn't do my disclaimer, did I? You guys are probably like, when's she going to do the disclaimer? She doesn't want to get herself in trouble. We don't want her to get herself in trouble unless you're a troll and you hate me, and that's okay. I don't need anybody's approval. It's nice to have people's approval. And I actually feel kind of complimented when people troll me, because it's like, why am I even worth your time? Okay. And yeah, trolling actually helps people's algorithms. It increases them. So if you really hate somebody, don't troll them, because you're improving their algorithm. I mean, anyway, everything I say is simply my opinion, even that. And it's all just for the sake of starting a conversation, hoping to open up a discussion with my viewers, hoping to be educational for others, and hoping to learn. Every day I'm trying to learn, and every day I do learn, and I love it. And it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me inspired, and being inspired is what it's really all about. And I hope that I inspire other people. That's why I do this, to inspire myself and hope to inspire others. All of my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform that sometimes has glitches, like the little purple monkey with the hammer that I'm looking at right now. Excuse me. And sometimes the glitches seem very calculated. I'll just say, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. And that funny little quote is something that you could say borrowed or stole from Rich Lux, and I like to give credit where credit's due. Okay, so let's read this article that's in much better printing. Thank goodness the one that's all faded was at least real large printing, because this is not faded, but it's kind of tiny. but I have my glasses. Perhaps I should make sure they're clean. Do I have one of my little wipe things? Yes, I do. So I'm going to clean my glasses, because what happens, for anybody who doesn't have glasses and doesn't know, is even if you think you can see everything just fine, if you have a smudge on your glasses, it can make an E look like an A, or an O look like an A, or something like that. And then you might misread a word. Like that happens sometimes in the chats, and then sometimes it can really change the meaning of the whole concept of the sentence. So, glasses clean, Gene Hackman. And let me just say, it's very sad that his 64-year-old wife and him both passed away, and their freaking dog. That just really breaks my heart. The dog seems like it was accidental, in my opinion. It seems like it was probably dehydration. And the dog was 12, which is not that much older than my dog, who has cancer, who's doing so well. Thank you for caring about Coco and her condition. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and read this. The Simultaneous Death Act. Have you heard of that? I had not ever heard of that. The Simultaneous Death Act. So I looked up on Google trying to figure out with the states if a couple passes away together versus one passing away before the other, how that affects the inheritance for children, etc. The Simultaneous Death Act may affect estate of Gene Hackman and wife. And I don't know if that Simultaneous Death Act is federal or if it's state. I'm going to guess federal, but let's see. On Wednesday afternoon, police found, and I'll just read through this whole thing. There's a couple of parts that I really wanted to highlight, but I'll just start at the beginning. Wednesday afternoon, police found Academy Award-winning actor Gene Hackman, age 95, and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. I'm so bad with names. Arakawan? Let's just say Betsy. Sorry. I'm terrible with names, and any enunciation I'm pretty bad with, but words, you've probably heard them before. Names sometimes are brand new to you, like that one. I'll spell it for you. It's Anakawa. That's cute because every other letter is an A. And then it's actually not a N, it's a R. Arakawa. So it's a good thing my glasses are clean, or I wouldn't have caught that. Arakawa. Okay, it's easier to say with an R rather than an N. Okay, stumble over that. Age 64, deceased in their Santa Fe home. Officers came to the home responding to a neighbor's request for a welfare check and discovered the couple and their dog were deceased. So let me just say, it's my opinion that it could be accidental, and it's unlikely, in my opinion, that it was accidental. I'll just say that. Hackman was a legendary actor with such screen credits as Superman, The Royal Tenenbaums, Hoosiers, and Welcome to Mooseport. He won Oscars for The French Connection, Best Actor, Unforgiven, Best Supporting Actor. He met Arakawa in California, and they married in 1991. So she's 64. His oldest kid is his son, who's 65. He's got two daughters, one that's 63, and I think the other one is like 59 or something like that. Anyway, so she's the same age basically as his two oldest kids, which had to be kind of creepy. She was 23, so the kids would have been about 24, 22, and late teens when he decided to leave their mother and them. I mean, they were probably all out of the house, but who knows? Anyway, he'd been married to their mother for 3 decades. And so when they married in 91, they left Los Angeles for Santa Fe, New Mexico. Well, yeah, he might have been, I don't know. He might have been scoffed at, but not in LA. I mean, that's what everybody does in LA. Come on. You got to have the trophy wife, right? It's like a mandate. Initially, there was no evidence of foul play, but authorities are investigating. The police had a search warrant and worked for the utility New Mexico gas company. So no evidence of foul play, but remember, it's been 9 days they found out since his pacemaker stopped. So that gives people a lot of time to destroy evidence and stage something, in my opinion. New Mexico gas company to look for carbon monoxide or gas leaks, finding none. And I think since then they found a little bit. I don't know. You can't always trust what is being shared, because sometimes it's very intentional that law enforcement misleads the public in efforts to preserve the integrity of their investigation, or to instigate something, to get people to talk. So the Associated Press reported that the couple may have been deceased for some time. Hackman, and this was just yesterday, I think. Let me see. I like to know the dates when things were written. No, this was actually written right after it happened. Sorry. Sorry for being misinformed. Hackman was found in the mudroom. But again, sometimes it's best to go with the first thing released, because sometimes that's more truthful than follow-up, right? Sometimes it's often good to go back to the beginning. Hackman was found in the mudroom. Arakawa was found, and again, I apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly, was found near a space heater in the bathroom with open prescription bottles around her. That's where it sounds so staged to me, as the prescription bottles. Okay, police must determine the cause of the unaliving, an approximate time of the unaliving, which is going to be challenging, except for the fact that they've got the pacemaker and other digital evidence from the condition of the remains. Obviously, that is a lost cause there. But yeah, digital, especially if she wore like an Apple Watch or something like that. But most people carry their phones, and most people text a lot, look things up a lot. So that's one way to tell. But sometimes people pose as other people and use their devices to text and look things up to pretend that they're that person, right? Like Brian Laundrie with Gabby Petito, and so many others. Anyway, let's continue on. Here we go. Where was I? Police. Okay, the timing of their deaths is critical in estate law and for determining inheritance rights. Hackman has 3 children from a prior marriage, and she does not have children. Often married couples' wills leave each other the entire estate. So we don't know about his or hers. If the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office determines that she passed away first, her estate would be probated first. And probate, to me, in my opinion, is criminal. It's basically the state borrowing the entire sum of the estate and investing it, and sometimes holding on to it for eternity, sometimes just holding on to it for a year or two. But it really borders on criminal. Of course, they do it within the law, and it's about the state, not the families. It's really unfortunate. If you've ever had somebody pass away in your family, even when they've already gone through all the legal avenues in advance, it still takes at least 6 months minimum to collect an inheritance. In my experience, I think it took me an entire 12 months, and that was with an attorney and with good planning. So let's see. Her estate would be probated first, presumably benefiting Hackman. If Hackman passed first, his estate presumably would go to her with the potential to leave out his children. So that's where my imagination goes, is that his children were concerned about that. Allegedly. If they passed without wills, called dying, I've never heard this word. It's not interstate, it's intestate. Intestate. Dying intestate. State inheritance laws apply. Under New Mexico law, if Hackman died first without a will, his wife would receive 1/2 of community property. Now, I can't imagine that a millionaire, multimillionaire like him didn't have a will, and especially with a new wife and the children. His ex-wife, I think, died about 8 years ago, and I'm not sure what from. But, she probably was 85, so it was probably natural causes. Let's see. His wife would receive 1/2 of community property and 1/4 of separate property, with his children inheriting the remaining separate property. Excuse me. However, if police determine that they passed at the same time or within a short time of each other, the Simultaneous Death Act comes into play. What is the Simultaneous Death Act? The Simultaneous Death Act is a law adopted in many states that determines how to distribute an estate where two people pass at the same time or within a short time of each other. I wonder how short that time has to be, like minutes? Like in a car accident kind of thing? If two people passed within 120 hours, there we go. Sorry. If two people, it's funny, like I'm asking that question, it's the very next sentence. If two people passed within 120 hours of each other, it is presumed they passed simultaneously. This means the estate is administered as if the deceased survived their beneficiary. The purpose is to administer estates efficiently and avoid court battles to determine who passed first. An example is a life insurance policy. Suppose a husband has a life insurance policy and names his wife as the primary beneficiary and his two children as contingent beneficiaries. If he and his wife pass simultaneously or within 120 hours of each other, the insurance company treats it as if the wife predeceased the husband. The children receive the life insurance proceeds as a result. It would make little sense for the proceeds to go to the wife's estate to be probated and then given to the children. How does the Simultaneous Death Act affect Hackman and Arakawa and his wife? I'm so sorry. I'm terrible. Arakawa estate. So I'm going to give it a shot. Typically, wills include a standard simultaneous death clause mirroring the state statute. However, Hackman and his wife may have wills dictating what should happen if they pass simultaneously. I bet they did. Or if their order of death cannot be determined. For example, they could stipulate that the time period extended 30 or 90 days. And for all we know, she passed away long before him, for all we know. I don't know that there's been any announcements of that yet. Just that she was, trigger warning, that parts of her remains were mummified. And I'm not sure that parts of his remains were mummified, but he was in a more open area, it sounds like. She was like tucked away in a bathroom and then near a space heater. And I don't even know if that space heater was on or not. But let's continue on here. If the New Mexico statute applies and police determine they passed within 120 hours of one another, then each spouse's estate will go to the remaining beneficiaries, but not their spouse. Hackman's estate will go to his beneficiaries, but not his wife, and her estate will go to her beneficiaries, but not her husband. I wonder who her beneficiaries are. I wonder if she had a decent relationship with her stepchildren. I don't know. What if there is foul play? As police continue the investigation into their mysterious passing, if they find that one spouse caused their partner's passing, that spouse cannot inherit. There is a law known as the Slayer statute that prohibits someone from inheriting property or assets from their victim if they intentionally harmed them. This statute is to prevent someone from profiting from the deceased, from causing another to be deceased. Therefore, if the authorities determine one spouse passed after the statutory 120 hours but caused their partner's death, they could not inherit. More details may emerge from the police investigation that could affect the distribution of the estates. Time of death creates many twists and turns in inheritance rights. Probate lawyers help manage an estate when someone passes and can handle tricky situations such as the order of death. Okay, I think I'll stop there. I'm fascinated by that because, like I said, I do know some about it from my own family, and it's going to be different in every state. It's going to be different in every situation. And what I learned overall is that, in my opinion, it really benefits the state. So it's a really good thing to have a will and to update it routinely, right? So what else do I want to say? I want to say that at this point in time, with regard to El Presidente, it still doesn't seem to me that he has a concept of a plan for healthcare. I don't really think he cares. Healthcare is kind of an oxymoron in that sentence. And I also feel like he doesn't care about the safety of the world. I feel like he's in bed, literally or figuratively or both, with Putin. You guys have probably heard about the alleged P tapes that exist that he says don't exist. Those have been murmured about for years and years and years. And it's my guess that that's something that Musk and Putin can hold over his head to make him do what they want him to do. But that's just a guess. I don't know. It seems to me that the infrastructure of our society and our government is getting bulldozed and chainsawed, and that the people doing that have no clue how all that infrastructure, the inner workings of it, affects everything else. Like, they're not going to be able to go forward with their evil plan, in my opinion, with the collapse of everything. The collapse of everything is the collapse of everything, but who knows? Unless they're like, Freud thought that everybody has a death wish, and it could be that this is their death wish, right? So this whole idea of like no tax on tips and social security, it seems that everything that El Presidente does, whether that's the big E or the little t, it's all self-serving. So when they say no tax on tips, it just occurred to me yesterday that they could be setting that up so that when they pay people, when they pay themselves, when they pay each other, they can say, well, this $5 billion is just a tip, so you don't have to pay tax on that, right? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So did I talk about Suzanne Lambert? I think I did. The makeup artist from Washington, D.C. I think she's 23 years old. She's also a stand-up comedian, and she's kind of honed in on specializing in Republican politicians' makeup, male and female. And she's really good. So she was on Don Lemon's show recently, a few days ago, and I caught her. And it's not something I would normally pay attention to, but because I like Don Lemon so much, I was curious and I found it fascinating. And it might be in the description. I might have already put that link in the description of my last video from the day before yesterday, but whether I did or not, I'll put it in today's description if you're interested. And some of the words that I was playing with, because, you know, there's a lot of buzzwords that we can't say in YouTube land. And one of them is Zex or Hex or Nex or Rex or X. Ix. So I don't know, maybe on my next video, or maybe I'll do it in the community post. I'll take a vote. Yeah, I think I'll do a community post with a vote. Like, what do you think would be a good substitute word for the S word? So X, Zex, Nex, Rex, Hex. You know, when you're saying like an ex offender, an Ix offender. I kind of like Ix because it has that other meaning of just being icky, an Ix offender, but people might not understand what you mean. So something like Zex, I would think that they would. Or Hex, or Nex, or Rex. X offender. So let me know your opinion. You can put a comment in the comment section when the video's over if you want. So another one that I wanted to come up with, because, you know, you can't say that, you can't say the F word at all. And sometimes there's nothing like saying the F word. It's very therapeutic and cathartic, in my opinion. So, like, could you say sucker instead of effer? Could you say yucker, cucker, tucker, zucker? I kind of have a propensity towards zucker. Again, the double meaning. But sucker, cucker, tucker, yucker, you know, you want something that has that emphasis that you can still get that cathartic feeling from, right? So with all of this weird stuff going on in our government, there's a lot of chaos. And I grew up, probably like many people my age, watching Get Smart, right? And they would always talk about the chaos agent. And I never understood what that meant. I knew what chaos was, but I didn't understand how a chaos agent can create interference for a distraction so that you can get other things done. So I feel like all of the people in our Republican government right now, I feel like are chaos agents. And, you know, honestly, I don't feel very good about the Democrats either, until they like get busy. I mean, I kind of gave up on those two parties a long time ago, and I was really hoping that there'd be a third independent party, but it seems impossible. But, you know, never say never. So let's talk about Russian asset propaganda, because that's, I think, what's going on here in the Oval Office. And I have a quote of Little T in 2012 where he said, if the Dow loses over 1,000 points in a 48-hour period, whoever's president should be immediately fired, or, you know, that other word that you use for firing presidents, not laid off. Why is it escaping me at the moment? You know the word. Banished. No, just kidding. When you terminate the presidency, why is my brain freezing? Why? I guess because it's time to wrap it up. Impeach. Damn, I was not going to be able to come up with that. I was nowhere close. How weird. How bizarre. So, yeah, I'm at an hour. That's pretty much where my brain expires, huh? Apparently. All right. So, impeachment. Yes. So, the Dow Jones lost over 1,400 points a couple days ago in a 48-hour period. And who was in charge? Who is El Presidente? OMG. The Russian asset, in my opinion. So let's talk about Kansas City. Let's talk about Idaho 4. And then we'll wrap up, I think. Let's see. The days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over, Trump said in his State of the Union. Was that a direct threat to Elon? Sorry for the dogs barking in the background. Okay, so I have a couple of quotes of his from the State of the Union, and then I'll move on to the Kansas City triple passings away and the Idaho Moscow quadruple passings away. The days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over. Was he just like brain dead when he said that? Was he not thinking of the big E, or was he making a direct threat to the big E? Because I honestly think that they have threatened each other with maybe some subtle and not so subtle social media posts where they're letting each other know, like, I could out you. And that's just my opinion. Anyway, the other quote that I have written down from Little T that I thought was extremely offensive, and I can't imagine that a lot of people didn't find it extremely offensive. He was talking, was it when he was talking about Canada being the 51st state, or was it Greenland? Either way, I think it was Greenland, but he said that he thought that they would come around to agree to it so that they don't have taxes. It might have been Canada. But then he said, one way or another, we're going to get it. And to me, that was so much like an actual predator kind of, one way or another, we're going to get it. Oh my goodness. OMG. Disgusting. Okay, Kansas City. So they arrested 2 people. It's been over a year since the 3 young men, I say young because they were probably in their 30s, I think early 30s. So sad. And so I guess they were drinking and smoking marijuana and maybe doing lines of Coca-Cola at Jordan Willis's house and watching the Kansas City. It was a playoffs. It wasn't even like the Super Bowl. It was last year, and we know that Kansas City won the Super Bowl last year, but this was in the playoffs right before that, if I'm remembering right. And I always like to add that because sometimes I'm not remembering right and I don't want to have to go back in there and clean it all up. I can just say, oh, good, I said if I'm remembering right. So it's okay that I was remembering wrong. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was one of the playoff games, but they were excited because they thought that they were headed to the Super Bowl. It was like right towards the end, right before the final Super Bowl game, I think, again, if I'm remembering right. And so Jordan Willis had his buddies over and they were celebrating during the game or after the game. I think it was after the game, right? Anyway, it ended up that the 3 were frozen in his backyard. Again, if I'm remembering accurately, there might be some details that I'm missing. And one of the details that I didn't catch, I don't think, this whole last year is that at some point, Jordan Willis took his dog to his dad's house. Now, did he take that dog to his dad's house before they started doing the rugs? Or did he take his dog to his dad's house after his friends overdosed? So apparently they overdosed from the Coca-Cola and fentanyl. And then there was a second person who was arrested. I think his last name is Carson, and he allegedly supplied the Coca-Cola and the fentanyl. And it's just so sad. I mean, it's great that they're finally arrested. We'll see what happens with the prosecution. Guilty or innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That was a Freudian slip. Guilty until proven innocent. I mean, that's how it is in places, some other countries. I don't know if it's every country other than ours, but a lot of other countries, if you are being tried for a crime, you are considered guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. So that's why our judicial system is regarded so highly, because it really preserves a person's civil rights. So the state has to prove that you're guilty in order to lock you up, or give you capital punishment, or what have you, fine you, put you on probation before sentencing, right? So that takes us right over into the Idaho 4 case. So I have not paid a ton of attention to the Idaho 4 case, because every time I do, it just seems like the same crap regurgitated. It doesn't seem like there is actually anything new. But something that's new to me is the DNA under Maddie Mogen's fingernails. Like, really? Are there really 3 people's DNA under her fingernails? Because we've heard them talking about the 3 other male DNAs that were found at the house. And I mean, they had a lot of people hanging out at that house, so that could be anybody's. Or it could be the people that they summoned after everybody was deceased, for the 9 hours before they called 911, and then the 4 hours before the lead detective got there. So, yeah, it wasn't 8 hours before they called 911. It was 9 hours. I talked about that recently in one of my videos. And when they moved the time frame up from between, like, I think it was between 3 and 4 a.m. that they said that the unalivings happened. And then in the PCA, the clock started at exactly 4 o'clock, right? So that bought a whole nother hour. So when they talk about it taking 8 hours for 911 to be called, they're talking about with a 4 o'clock time frame of when the crimes were committed, when it seems that the crimes were committed up to an hour before then, which would add another hour to how long it took them to finally get around to calling 911, which again gives them a ton of time to stage the scene, to clean up evidence, to destroy evidence, to run for the hills, whatever it is. But it doesn't seem like the criminal defendant's DNA is one that was found under any of the victim's fingernails. So that's interesting, to say the least. And why this information was kept quiet, that there were 3 other males' DNA found in the crime scene, or 3 DNA of other people found under Maddie Mogen's fingernails. And then my first thought is, well, fingernails can be really filthy, and especially if you have long nails. I keep my nails short right now, and I scrub them with a fingernail cleaner all the time, because I know that germs love to hide under your nails, and people in my family have had the flu, and I don't want to get it. I have a flu shot, but I still don't want to get even a mild flu. So I scrub my fingernails. And I would think Maddie, being a girly girl, probably had long fingernails. And most people, I don't think, do scrub their fingernails, quite honestly. And so if she was still working at the Mad Greek, who knows whose DNA could have been under her fingernails, or even if she's not still working at the Mad Greek. But nobody has brought up the Mad Greek in forever and ever. So that makes me suspicious right there. Because the Mad Greek, I did a little bit of research on it remember they were saying in the beginning, like, oh, that's probably where Koberger started stocking them because he was a vegan and they had vegan food there. And there's not a lot of restaurants with vegan options on their menu. But the Mad Greek, I think, started in Sitka, Alaska. I know that they only have two, that one is in Sitka, Alaska, and one is in Moscow. Or at least that's how it was when this happened back in November of 2022. And Sitka is one of the places in Alaska that I have visited. It's a very, very small town. And what I learned when I was there interviewing for a job or just, kind of familiarizing myself with the people and the job because I already accepted it, but it was contingent with visiting. And I loved the people and I loved the area, but I just couldn't see living there for long term. And I told them that. I said, I'm sorry, I have to back out of my plan because, I don't want to put all that effort into changing everything in my life and then have to move in a few years. And the guy who was hiring me was like, a few years. He was like, we were just hoping for 12 months. And it just made me laugh because we've all heard the stories like Northern Exposure, people that fly up to Alaska to take these jobs in these small remote towns and they don't even get off the airplane. They change their mind sitting there on the airplane because they had no idea what they were getting into. And those are, I think, with towns much remote and much smaller than Sitka. Sitka's at least a couple thousand people, I think. And there are a few banks and restaurants and maybe a couple of hotels. It's a fishing community. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. I love it. There's a lot of whale watching there. But what was my point again? That when I was there visiting, it seemed like everybody that I met lived half of their life in Alaska and then half of their life in a place a lot warmer like Mexico or something. And so for anybody who doesn't know, if you live in Alaska, you get a stipend every year. They talk about it in the Simpsons movie. It's like thousands of dollars. The government's like paying you for the rights to the oil, I think, to the natural resources. And so some people live in Alaska the minimum number of days of a year just so that they can collect that stipend. I don't know if that's like 90 days or 100 days or what, because winter is pretty harsh no matter where you are in Alaska, and summer is pretty short. So it seems that Idaho is not that different from Alaska. The saying there is Idaho where it's always winter but never Christmas. Interesting that these people with the Mad Greek would have a restaurant in Sitka and then a restaurant in Idaho, because it seemed to me like people would have a business in Alaska and then a business like in Mexico or someplace warm, Southern California or something. Anyway, I'm really curious about the DNA under Maddie's fingernails. Really curious. I'm going to have to look into that. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I still have 3 and I got 3 likes. So if there's anybody here who hasn't hit the like button, please do so. Or if you're watching on the replay crew, please hit that like button. It helps the algorithm a lot. And we know it's all about the algorithm. So anything else that, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the OnlyFans concept with the Idaho 4. Nobody's talked about that in a while, it seems. And it seems to me that that's a real thing, like with not the fraternities so much, but again, Freudian slip, maybe, with the sororities, with the college, with the president. Remember that President Coomer Scott Green, remember, he was a billionaire when he was hired. He was worth about $3 billion, according to my Google research, when he was hired. And then within 12 months, he increased his $3 billion fortune to $4 billion in 1 year. And the salary for that job is, I think, a few $100,000. And the only way I stumbled across that billionaire information was I was trying to find out what the salary for the job was. And maybe it was like $1 million. I don't remember, but certainly wasn't $1 billion. So he grew his fortune $1 billion in 1 year. And we know that his dad, I believe, was a law professor at the university. We know that his father owned that house, 1122 King Road, in the early 70s when Coomer Scott Green was a small child. Not that they lived there, but that his father owned the property. And then after the quadruple homicide, then that current owner, that guy who lived in, was it Loma, Colorado, Dan from Blue Sky Realty or something like that, the guy who owned the white Hyundai Elantra that got crashed in Oregon, that guy, he owned the property and a bunch of other properties, but he donated that property to the university after the homicides. And then the university decided to bulldoze it down. And then they resurrected it with a little Lego set or something recently, because, you know, who needs the real thing when you can use your imagination? Maybe Elon could loan you some rugs to help expand your imagination. That's not even funny, is it? Truth to every joke. So back to the whole thing with the OnlyFans. So that I've heard that with a good photograph on OnlyFans that you can make up to like $1 million in a day with one good photograph. The thing about photographs and digital provocative adult entertainment property is that you can continuously make money off of it because it has a long shelf life. It's not going to disappear the way, you know, something in time and space is less permanent. Your photographs, your digital photographs, your videos, those last forever, basically, essentially, for all practical purposes. But the other part of OnlyFans that people talk about very, very little, and I think that it needs to be talked about because it's my understanding that it's a significant part of OnlyFans. It's sort of like lap dancers and then the back room. When you have OnlyFans, you also have what they call yacht girls or yacht boys. And I had never even heard that term before the Idaho 4 case. And we've all seen beautiful photographs of the sorority girls on the yachts, right? And at the time when I first looked at those photographs, I thought completely innocent, you know, somebody rented a yacht for a vacation or something. And that might be the case. It might be completely innocent. But there's also been a lot of murmur about people in this case being yacht girls or yacht boys, which, forgive me, really forgive me. That's just a nice term for, what's it? Escorts, right? I mean, sorry. I am sorry. I don't want to be rude about it. And so when you have an OnlyFans page, I think there's like a back page to the OnlyFans page that, you know, for a certain amount of money, many people, you can get more than just the photograph, more than just the video. They also haven't talked about the video cameras that we all speculated were hidden away in that house, which was probably possibly one of the reasons why they wanted to bulldoze it. Remember when they had all the heating and air conditioning, the HVAC people going in there, which, you know, you're going to need that when you have a house, and especially when you've got a quadruple situation like that with hazmat. But it's also curious. It is also curious. And I'm just thinking as I'm saying it, how Koberger's father was an expert in HVAC, I think. And I think that was what he did for the school system in Pennsylvania where they lived. and his mother was like an assistant for the schools, like an executive assistant or something like that, I think, administrative secretary type. And he got a job there, I think, as security at some point. Koberger did. But he also went to school to do the whole HVAC thing that his father did. And those skills could be really handy if you were, let's say, hired by the Pullman PD to do electronic data collection stuff. I'll just leave it at that. You can use your imagination and do with it what you will. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I appreciate you guys being here very, very much. And I am just hoping that the next video I won't have a purple monkey on my back saying something went wrong. And I'm also hoping that this video will stay up, because that's frustrating when they don't. But, you know, there's always going to be problems. Or as I like to say, problems. There's always going to be problems. So we have to choose our battles wisely, which, you know, the other saying for that is, you know, is that the hill you want to die on? Are you really going to die on that hill? You know, fighting for purple monkeys, not covering up your chat on your screen. I mean, I've got more important things to do. If I've got a purple monkey covering up the chat on my screen, and that's my biggest problem in my life, you know how I love to say, then I'm one lucky SOB. So at this moment, I definitely feel like one lucky SOB. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a really good day. I do want to recommend to everybody to stay hydrated, to stay well nourished and well rested, and get your exercise, and just be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And I'll just sign off. Love and light. Thanks again, you guys. Oh, if you want to, please say hi in the comment section after I end the stream, so I know who was here in the chat in case it doesn't even show up tomorrow. So, all right. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.